Okay, so now we're going to take off all of this so we can work on the next steps. And as you can see, we're going to take apart the rear end, and then all of the suspension parts are getting replaced. And of course, I'm going to change this to a locking differential. So I really do need to take apart all of this before we can start. So let's go ahead and do that. So just a point of interest, but I can tell that when I put this together, I must have used liquid thread lock on both, which at the time I would never have been thinking about taking this apart. Fair enough, but I'm not even going to try to take this apart. I need to rebuild this. So when I take it apart, it's obviously going to allow me to remove it because it's attached to what's inside here. So I'll just take this apart, and I'm going to probably clean it up and clean up the inside and everything, and just get it looking really good again, because there's going to be years of wear inside there. So it'll be curious to what it's going to look like when I take this off. So now we're ready for putting on the rear suspension system. So this is the 03, and this is the final steps. So here is the bag of goodies, which we'll go ahead and open and see what we've all got in here. So we've got the right and left main plates. And then we have all of these parts here, which will attach to the chassis. And it's a completely different design for how the axle is going to go. Well, I'm kind of curious to see how that all fits. And then we've got the other parts and screws and arms and all that sort of stuff. So that's all in that bag. So I'll just get everything sort of set up and ready to go, and we'll start the install. Okay, so I've pulled everything together for what we're going to need for parts on either side. So I'll start putting in the left side first. Those are the two main parts, and then all the screws, which are going to get attached to the axle. And then of course on the right side, or I should say, yeah, the right side, same thing. So I will start screwing those parts into the axle. Then we have the ball stud, which will go there. There's that. And then we've got the little small one on the other side, which is going to go through. This piece right here is going to sit. Actually, you can see that it's going to nicely fit on there just because of the way that's designed. So you can see that when you put that on, it's actually pretty solid already. It's a tight fit. But we need the, let's see, that one is going to be the 24mm screw, which is this guy, which is bigger. Stick that all the way through. In a minute. Oh, interesting. Okay, so little change here. See how we put the 2 screws into the axle? They actually want you to replace that with this, and then there's another, the screw's going to go on here and all the way through to the end. So we actually need to undo these 2 screws first. So let's just do that. The things you learn along the way. So those are coming out. This is fitting on top, and you can see now it's a nice fit. So then we take the 24mm screw and put it all the way through to the ball end. And again, we'll just tighten that up. That's the bigger one, so we're going to do that. But I can tell that this is going to have to screw in at the same time. There we go. So now that is a nice firm fit. So that's one, so you can see there. So then we have the smaller screws, which are the 16mm ones, which are going to go into here now, and they're just going to go screw directly into this, basically replacing the other ones that we had. And all of the Yay Racing stuff, it's a hex screw head, which is interesting. There we go. So that is on. And then of course we've got one last part on this actually, which is the step screw, which is going to go into the end one right here. And I'm not going to tighten it right now because that's obviously for the rear shock. So I'm just going to put it in there, tighten it enough that it's there, but we're going to have to undo it again when we're ready to put the shock in place. So there's the first one. I'll now do the other side. Okay, so there you go. There is the axle with all of the Yay Racing pieces on it. So what we have to do now is move on to the suspension arms that are going to get attached here and here and down here, so that we still have that same swing arm mobility. So once that's done, we're going to be close to finishing this, but that is what the finished product looks like in terms of how it fits all onto the rear axle. So very cool. We'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we did step 1. That's all complete. Now we're moving on to step 2 of this, and you can see all of the parts that we're going to need to install on the chassis. And I've now laid out all of the parts from the parts bag, so we're all ready to go. So I think what I'm going to do is we're going to start putting in these aluminum pieces onto the frame, which means we need to put some ball joints on and then screw them in. And then I'll screw in this part as well, the pieces that need to go in, and then we'll work on all of the pieces that have the ball ends, and you can see there's a sizing chart, so we're going to need to get them to length as well. But first, let's get on to installing these aluminum pieces onto the chassis. So the one thing I've noticed, which is really quite interesting, is you see the underside of that. You can see there's an indentation for this. And of course you can see that this is specifically designed for those indentations. So when you put it on, it's solid. So this kit's well designed because the markings are all there and they're already almost like a pre-fit. So I think that's great. So first of all, it's showing that we need to put a ball connector into the center of the aluminum piece. So I'm going to take this ball connector and put it into the center. And get my handy dandy hex screwdriver. Okay, so that's in place. We're going to put this down onto there, and using the 10 millimeter screws, we're going to screw them on. Now I'm just going to get another one and make sure that that's in. I don't want to tighten anything until I know that the parts are fitting okay. Seems to be fitting nice. So it's great, nice and tight. Great. So what we'll do is we'll do the same thing with the other one. So we know that's going to go on there, into the middle. And then we know that's going to fit there. Same thing, 10 millimeter screws. All right, so those are nice and tight too. All right, So those are now on. So now we'll move on to the next bit. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do that piece there, which is going to screw into those two holes there, which is this piece right here. So let's go ahead and do that, and that's going to get screwed in right there. Okay, nice and solid. Now the next thing we're going to do is, you can see here the ball connector goes into this piece here, which has a bearing, and you can see that it's going to go into the top hole of these instructions. So I will put in those now, and so there's the two ball connectors, which will go into here. And here. And I'll just do a quick tighten. There we go. So now the two ball connectors are on, and then you can see that it's going to be attached to the other piece. Now they're showing the bearings, but it actually came with the bearings already in the piece. So what we need is this tuber, as they call it, which is this thing right here. Slide it through, and another 12mm screw, and then attach it to that piece. So we'll do that now. Okay, put the tuber in, then we have the screw that's going to go in there, and then that is going to screw into here. And you can see that's going to create play and movement for the new suspension. So all right, that's on. And you can see, because of the ball bearings, it's got definite free movement, that's for sure. So that's the next step. And let's move on to the next one. So I think at this point, let's make these link shafts, because we've put on the main aluminum pieces here. We've put this on, it's all attached. The only thing really left is these arms. So let's go ahead and make those. I've pulled those together there. I just need to twist them on, and the same thing's going to apply to those two. And then get them to the right length, because the smaller ones have to go to 46mm from the center, and the longer shaft is 66mm from the center. So I'll just work on getting them to the right length and attaching those arms, and then we'll move to installing them on the chassis. Okay, so there are the finished arms, and we are now going to attach them to the chassis. Once that's done, the only thing left will be to reattach the shock to the shock tower. So let's go ahead and attach the arms. All right, so those arms are now on, and now we just need to attach it to the axle. Snap that one on, and there we go. So you can see how that suspension is going to be with the full range of motion. So that's great. So we'll put on the shocks and just see how this actually works. All right, so that's one on. Now, let's put the next one on. All right, and now the shocks are on. So you can see you've still got full range of motion. That's great. So put the tires on and just see how this sits. Almost done. Okay. So there we have the rear suspension completely redone. So we'll put the body back on and just take a look at this. So there's the Jeep now with the kit all on, and you can see that there's actually quite a bit of suspension travel. So at this point, all three wheels are on the ground. I mean, there's quite a bit of distance there, and I mean, same thing. The suspension travels great. So this is going to be fun to just test out now with the new kit, and of course, it's now locking. The wheels are completely lock differential, so I can't actually. I have to hold it up now to be able to run it because it won't spin the other way. So I'm gonna have to do a test ride with this and do some climbs and see how this works with the locking differential. But overall, I'm really happy with how this has turned out. I think that is a huge improvement, and of course, now that the turnbuckle's fixed, I can finally use this again. So we'll do some test runs. So if we look at this, that's how it looks now. And as you can see, with me changing the differential, when I try to move the rear wheels, everything moves now. So this is going to be interesting taking it for a drive, because I'm curious to see how much better this is off-road now that it's a lock differential. But overall, I was actually very happy with the installation of this kit. I think the instructions, I mean, they were all separate, but I think the instructions were pretty easy to understand. So I think it's a well worth upgrade to your CC-01 kit if you want to do that. I think it looks great. I love the blue aluminum. And of course, now this is all fixed, and I've got the full suspension and steering is all back again. So we'll definitely do some tests with this, but overall this has been great. And as you can see, I've left the parts here. These are all of the parts that were taken off the original kit and replaced with this. So there's actually quite a few. So I'm going to keep all these because there's some, the bearings that I originally got for this and the steering knuckles. It's all there, and you never know, for whatever reasons, maybe I'll need to keep them. I'll keep them for a while anyway. So that is it for the installation of the A-Racing aluminum conversion kit. If this has been very helpful, please do like, subscribe. More content's on the way, and I'll definitely do a drive video on this so we can see just how different the driving experience is. So other than that, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you in another video.